Now let's build the listing screen. So here in the screens folder, let's add a new file, listings screen.js. Just like before, we create a function component. We want to wrap everything with our screen component. Once again, VS Code is not helping with importing this component. So we have to manually import it on top. Import screen from the components folder. Now, what do we need here? We need a flat list. We need a flat list to render a bunch of cards. So let's import the flat list component. Now look, we have two flat list components. The first one, as you see in the tooltip, is the one defined in React Native gesture handler. And the second one is the one defined in React Native. I'm not familiar with the flat list defined in this library. So let's import the right flat list. Now I want to move this to the top. So all the import statements from third-party libraries are in one place. Now here we need to set three props. Data, which we set to an array of objects. So let's define that over here. We call that listings. This is a temporary solution. In the future, when we talk about connecting our app to the backend, we're going to retrieve the listings from the server. Okay. So let's add a couple of objects here. We give each listing an ID so we can uniquely identify them. Let's set the title of the first object to red jacket for sale for $100. And we're going to give it an image. Once again, because this is a temporary solution, here we have to use the require function. Again, this is a temporary solution. In the future, we're going to have an image URL here. Okay. So here we're going to go to our assets folder and load jacket.jpg. Now let's add another listing. We change the ID to 2. Let's set the title to couch in great condition for $1,000. And we set the image to couch.jpg. Now we set data to listings. Now the second prop we have to set is key extractor. We set this to a function like this. Listing goes to listing.id, the toString. This is really important. We have to convert this number to a string because flatlist expects a string as a unique identifier. Otherwise, we'll get a warning. And finally, we set render item to a function. As I told you before, we need to destructure the argument and pick the item property. Now here we want to render a card. What props should we set? Each card has 3 props. A title, which we set to item.title. It also has subtitle, which we set to item.price. Well, here we want to format this as a monetary value. So we can just add a $sign and append the price. A very basic solution. So we're not going to separate every 3 digits with a comma. For now, it does the job. So let's move on. Finally, we need to set the image to item.image. Let's test our implementation up to this point. So save the changes. Now we go to app.js and render our new screen, listings screen. So now auto import works. I'm not sure what's going on. Now, here we have an error because the card component was not imported. So back to our listing screen. On the top, we import the card component. Now let's take a look. So here's what we get. Now we need to apply some padding so our cards are not so close to the edges of the screen. So on the top, let's import the style sheet module. Then we're going to create our styles object. So I'm going to create a style for our screen and give it a padding of 20 pixels. I also want to set the background color here, background color. Now we should import our colors palette. So import colors from config/colors. Now let's set the background color to colors.light. And finally, we need to apply our style. So we set style to styles.screen. Let's see what happens. So we have the background color, but padding is not applied. So let's go to our screen component At the time of recording this video, this component doesn't support horizontal padding. So even if you apply, let's say, a padding left of 50 pixels here, see, nothing happens. So to work around this, we have to add a view inside our safe area view and apply the padding there. So let's render a view component. Now we're going to render our children inside this view. So here's our new structure. Now, the style that we passed from outside, we should apply them to this view as well. So we set the style to this style object. Now save the changes. The problem is solved.